Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the Quest Live Technology Trends and Skills for Future. I'm Lekha, the digital practice head at Quest Global. I have 27 years of experience in the IT industry in setting up technology and digital practices like API microservices, cloud, IoT, and product integration. I also have Piyush Jain joining me today. Piyush is the Vice President and Global Delivery Head of Software and Digital Service at Quest Global. With 28 plus years of rich experience in technology and engineering space, Piyush leads overall strategy, planning, and delivery of all software and digital software business globally across all industry verticals at Quest Global. Piyush and I have been associated with the technology and engineering industry for quite some time now, and we have experienced how technologies have evolved over the years. However, for the past 1.5 years, given the pandemic situations, things have been very intense, and we have seen an accelerated growth of new innovations. With that in mind, we think it's a good time to do a deep dive on the technologies that are expected to gain traction in the near future and the skills that would be in demand. We'll be happy to address your questions at the end of the session, so stay tuned. Piyush, once again, a very warm welcome to the event.
Thank
My,
you, thank you, thank you, Lekha. Thank you for having me.
my first question, Piyush, is how has the pandemic changed the digital landscape?
So it's a very interesting question, Lekha, and the way I see pandemic as a great leveler. And now, if you remember, 2 years before pandemic, digital was definitely on the radar. I think all the organizations were looking at digital plans, but the consumer-facing industry was far ahead. And I think the industrial world was lagging behind, and they had their own priorities, obviously, for obvious reasons, right? But the pandemic actually kind of created that urgency. Now pandemic has had a lot of impact. Business suffered in the beginning. If you remember last year, in 2019, when the pandemic actually struck, in 2020, very early when the pandemic actually struck, and business went through a very turbulent time, and the focus was entirely on business continuity, and including at Quest, all of us were focused on trying to see how to manage business in these times when people cannot come to office, they cannot meet, and all that stuff, right? So the focus was purely on trying to see how to continue business, and every business went through that shift. But once that business continuity part settled down, and I think people got a comfort that they can manage business by having people remotely distributed and work, and that comfort came in. I think the focus shifted to see how to make this as part of the business going forward, because you never know. Pandemic is still not over. The virus threat continues to loom, but business has figured out a way of managing it. So I think, in my view, pandemic, while it has caused a lot of trouble for humanity and industry, the positive side is that the focus on digital has gained a lot of steam in the last, I think I would say, last 8 to 10 months. After the business continuity problem got resolved, I think the focus has shifted to make digital as the core strategy for all businesses, and that, in my mind, is driving a lot of focus now in all industries,
Right.
including the industrial world. I think starting this year, we saw every industry now accelerating their digital plans. So I see a very bright future. I think digital wave is here for real. It has definitely got accelerated with the pandemic, and a lot of work is ahead of us to make the industry more resilient for such kind of impacts that can possibly happen in the future. I hope they do not, but you never know.
Sure. So, as you said, the digital wave is here right now. So, Piyush, according to your observation, which are the technologies trending currently and expecting to see the traction in the near future?
So, in my view, Lekha, if you remember, this is a period which is very similar to what we went through when mobility came into being, right? So, 2007, 2008, if you remember, the industry was going through a paradigm shift when mobility became the central core strategy for all the companies. Everybody was looking at how to leverage mobility, with cell phones and smartphones becoming more and more popular. Not only the consumer, even the industrial world was looking at mobility as a main way of working. In a similar way, I think the digital wave this time is looking at cloud. I think cloud has become one of the most core technology shifts, in my view, in recent times, and it has accelerated post the pandemic impact. where every business now is looking at how to leverage cloud to not only ensure that business continuity plans continue to remain robust, but more importantly, to bring in a better functioning, better efficiency by using cloud. Cloud actually helps you reduce your data center requirements and space. But more importantly, it makes the application that much more robust and available anywhere, any place, anytime, right? So more focus has shifted towards cloud. Companies are looking at how to migrate onto cloud, which means a lot of legacy software will have to be upgraded towards cloud. A lot of new software development is happening on cloud, which is what the need of the hour is. On the infrastructure side, a lot of focus is shifting towards how to leverage cloud instead of your own, yeah, in-house servers and routers and stuff. I think cloud is becoming a dominant infrastructure element for businesses going forward. So cloud is going to be definitely one very, very key requirement, and I think possible technology shift to make sure that everybody moves on to cloud. The second, in my view, is the data engineering and AI area. I think a lot of focus has shifted towards AI tools, and AI tools rely on data. And we all know that industry has gone through a lot of data generation, data collation in the past few years. But with the advancement of new tools coming in, particularly in the AI space and data analytics space, now companies are realizing the true business benefit that they can derive from this data. So data analytics, data engineering, and AI, I think are the other technology segment that will see a lot.
I think Piyush, you're going a bit in and out. Yeah.
Lekha, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I lost you. I think we lost you at when you're talking about the data and AI part. So
Yeah,
there
yeah. No,
is
I think
that is
that shows that our network infrastructure is still not as reliable to to
right.
continue to have all this remote working possible. But I hope
Right.
things will
Yeah.
improve.
We
So
have
what
to
I was
wait for
saying was,
5G.
yeah, I
5G
know,
real
I know.
action.
I think the next big wave is going to be around 5G.
Yeah.
So coming back to the point I was making, so data engineering, Lekha, is going to be another big area. I think data engineering, data analytics, and AI tools are going to be a big focus for the companies. But there is a lot of focus and development to be done there. I think there are early days. People are experimenting with it, but the real use case and business case will take some time to happen.
Okay, that's very interesting, Piyush. While Quest has been a pioneer in the mechanical industry, and how do you see that these technologies like cloud, AI, ML, and transforming the our mechanical industry? We'll just wait for Piyush to be back. Yeah,
Yeah, just give me a minute, folks. I think my current network is a little patchy. Let me just shift to hotspot to be on the safe side.
sure. Yeah,
Sorry about that. Actually,
no problem.
it's yeah. Lekha, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. So
Yeah, sorry,
did
sorry.
you hear the question? Yeah,
Yeah, sorry about that. I think the
no
network has
problem.
been quite bad today. So, coming back to the point that you were making on the industrial side, so Quest, we do a lot of engineering work on the industrial side, and I think that is one sector, in my view, which is seeing a transformational change, particularly post-pandemic. I think the industrial
Yeah, you can go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, the industrial world was adopting digital, but the digital wave of the industrial world was on a slow track, in my view, before pandemic. But post pandemic, I think there is a acceleration, a rapid acceleration in the industrial world, particularly around asset management, predictive maintenance, digital twins, using AR. Augmented reality is again becoming a very, very prominent technology slowly. Where particularly industrial world, where they have so much of remote presence of people. Whether if you talk oil and gas industry, for example, they have so many people working on oil fields, right? And they need remote connectivity, and augmented reality can be a very good field support tool for them. Similarly, in the other industries, so augmented reality is being adopted at a rapid pace, where their field support engineers can benefit from there and can get access to the knowledge base that is needed for maintaining those oil fields and even in similar industries. So in my view, I think the acceleration in the industrial world on digital has picked up rapidly. And again, pandemic caused that the business disruption, where people could not go to the factories and then operate. So how do you make sure that you have technology solutions that allows you to operate the factories and allow you to operate the plants without human presence being there? So remote connectivity, factory automation, IoT based solutions where you can actually run the factories remotely and monitor them. I think these are now real. This is where the focus is going to shift. This is where the industry is going to adopt those technology solutions. But again, it's a long way off. The acceleration has started. There is a lot of work pending. Many of the industrial world applications are very old and legacy. So in order to move them to the newer technologies, particularly cloud and IoT based stack, is going to take time. It's going to take a lot of effort. But the good part is the industry realizes it. There is acceleration, there is appreciation, and I think the focus has completely shifted to invest in the digital paradigm for the industrial world.
That's a very interesting, Piyush. So, a lot of use cases around asset management and AR, which Quest has implemented also.
Right.
So, how was the Quest emerged from pandemic, and what are the growth areas? Correct.
So, a very interesting question, Lekha. I think, in my view, pandemic had both the negative and positive effects for us at Quest. The negative effect was the disruption that we saw in the business last year. I think we all went through a very difficult period where, post the first wave, I think it was all about trying to consolidate the business that we have and trying to make sure that we keep doing the fundamentals correctly, and also focus on how to help our customers. Our customers are also going through a very painful period, because that entire period was very uncertain to understand what is really happening and how will the business function. A lot of new elements were coming in. Remote working itself was a new element. How do you make sure that you are able to continue work, particularly in the industrial side, where there are very heavy softwares that are used for CAD CAM design? How do you manage that? How do you manage the manufacturing process and cycle, remotely? All of that was very, very challenging. So as our customers went through it, we went through it. I think we did a lot of learning along the way. Post that, I think things have actually, once there's a realization that digital technologies can help us, and there have been implementations that we could manage with the customer to make it work for them, I think the confidence is back in the industry, both in our customers and in us. I think we are now fully focused in trying to see how to adopt digital in a big way for our customers and help them make their businesses robust, because disruptions can happen. Pandemic has just been an awakening call for many in the business that were there in the industrial as well as the high tech industry. And going forward, we don't know. There could be other disruptions in a similar fashion. So I think technology has definitely helped us resolve a lot of issues. It has given us confidence that we can solve these issues and move forward. And adoption of this technology is going to be key as we go along. As I said, a lot of work is still to be done. I think we are getting now comfortable with application of digital for the business and for the industry, but a lot of work has to happen really to make business more and more robust as we go along.
That's good, Piyush. So we worked very closely with the customers during the troubled time, and it's good to see that the growth is back. So what? So when talking about the growth across the industry segments, how is the overall business demand, and what is the kind of hiring need we have for Quest now?
Yeah, so starting this year, Lekha, I would say, as soon as we got into this calendar year, there was a sudden, shift in the entire business scenario. Last year was where people were trying to salvage the business, make it sustain during that difficult period of the pandemic impact, immediate impact. But once, as I said, business continuity problems got sorted out, starting this calendar year, the tables have turned. The
Yeah.
demand scenario has increased all round. There is and this is being seen by the entire industry, not just us alone. I think the entire industry is seeing a lot of demand, particularly in the software and the digital space. And there is a lot of requirement coming from across all our customer segments. We operate in multiple verticals, and every vertical that we operate in today, customers are actually demanding for software and digital skills. So the skills that are in demand, particularly around cloud, around AI, ML, deep learning, data engineering, and some of the newer areas like augmented reality, which is becoming more and more mainstream. I think these are the key technology segments that are going to be, taking shape in the next 2 3 years before they stabilize. And once I think they become core, then we will see a lot of advent of new tools coming in to help us upgrade from there. So in my view, I think the biggest demand scenario right now is around cloud and data engineering, data analytics. I think that is the core area to invest for all the companies, particularly on the talent side. And now if I switch, if I switch gears, Lekha, and I speak on the talent side, one of the things that all of us are facing is a talent crunch and skill crunch. Right now, as we all know, the engineers need to have multiple different skills to function in today's digital environment, because the technology landscape is too vast. There are and they're all integrated. Many of the technologies work hand in hand with other technology segments. So given that you run digital practice for us, if I ask you about what are the key skill requirements talent should be having today to work in this industry, to work in this space, in the digital space, what would be your advice on the skill requirements for engineers today?
Okay. Yeah, it's a good question, Piyush. So when you talk about the talent, right, the soft skill part and the technology skills part, right? From a soft skill part, a good programming knowledge and understanding of the software fundamentals is key, because we do a lot of innovation now in the digital, right? So that is where that is a good understanding on programming language, and the base, it helps on the problem solving and design thinking, and it fosters innovation. And now, considering that when many of us are most of us are working remotely, communication skill is another key aspects, and along with collaboration, because digital programs currently, they are running in, we are running in agile model. So working with in a multifunctional team is another key aspect. So these are from the soft skill side of it. And from the technology skill, so I would like to say that the technology talk, we talked a lot about cloud, right? So cloud is, as you said, the customers have started adopting a couple of years back, and definitely, as you said, digital, the pandemic has accelerated the digital adoption, right? So there is a huge demand for the cloud professional, right? When it comes to cloud engineer, we need to decide what they have to focus. I know many of the engineers want to become get expertise on cloud. Cloud is a very vast area. That's where they need to need to understand and decide, do they want to focus on infra or DevOps or data or app development part. So, for example, if a program is about infra as a service, it will be just moving the infra part where you will manage the compute storage. So, and that so those people will focus more on the infra side of it. And we all know the popular ones, AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google GCP. They have a lot of tools associated in all these areas, and they can, the certain certification also comes as a prerequisite. They want to learn from scratch, and so that is another way to learn. And so when we say cloud, we talk about cloud. One good thing for all the services industry is, though we talk about write once and deploy anywhere, we have not reached there. So that's where we have a lot of work for cloud development, right? Cloud development, and especially when customers are doing the app modernization part, that is the re-architecting the monolithic application and building microservices. So if you look at all the organizations, they want to build composable enterprises. So that is where the world is a microservices world, if you ask me. So that is where the heavy demand of crying on the app development team happening at present, right? So if you look at AWS, Azure, Google, they have their own cloud native services. And so the way it is, the basic skills for a cloud developer is, who wants to do development, it is a Java. It could, can be work on Java, or Go is another one, upcoming one, and the .NET, C Sharp, and Spring Boot is another framework, and Node.js. These are the technologies they can use. So some of the technologies which they can use for the cloud development, and so the other part is, you talked about, the lot on the AI ML part, right? So the AI ML is also another, and the data engineering, right? So data engineering, yes, it is a lot of technologies are there, right? Snowflakes is leading the pack, and of course the heavy demand for Azure Databricks, and Azure Cosmos database, and then when customers are moving to Amazon, they look for the Amazon Redshift. So a lot of products are there, and that is that area is also a lot of technologies coming and exploding, I would say. And when you talk to machine learning, AI ML, that is another hot area. And if anybody want to become an expert in that area, the base skill for programming is Python. Most of the places they use Python, and so they use some of the algorithms like TensorFlow, Keras, and Scikit. A lot of tools are available, right? So and of course, good news for developers is that the no code, low code platforms are not yet picked up, right? So there is heavy demand for developers, around. So these are some of the basic skills which they need to look for, in for all this cloud, AI, ML, and data engineering area, Piyush.
Right. So there's one interesting question, Lekha, based on the explanation that you just gave. I think someone has asked a very interesting question in terms of, okay, let me ask a question in two parts. So in terms of the skills that Quest needs, so what are the kind of skills that are in demand at Quest today when we see the opportunities, right? That's the first part of the question. And the second part of the question would be, as those skills are there, and how do you ensure that people who do not have those skills, now people have experience, they have worked on a particular technology before, how do they upgrade themselves or reskill themselves to be able to participate in those kind of demands? So how would you give an advice to an engineer on that reskilling
Sure.
part?
Yeah. So most of the skills, what we look at, Piyush, it is around the Java. That is the Spring Boot areas like Spring Boot, and then of course Node.js is another area, and C Sharp and .NET is another one. And there is a heavy demand picking up for Golang, because it is definitely is, from Google. Go is from Google, and people who have C and C++, they can pick up Go very fast. So that is where the cross training will happen. And considering that most of the customers, right, our industrial customers are embarking on Azure journey, Azure is picking up very well, and lot of demand for Azure folks, be it in Azure DevOps area, or or be in the app development, or in the Cosmos database, or Azure Databricks, right, where they want to do the complete governance, analytics, everything. So the advice, like, I know we don't have that many in the industry itself. Like if you look at in areas like Azure, so we have actually have started study groups and training programs which will help the developers to take up the certifications starting, because for certification also there are certain prerequisite for the basic language. So anybody with a basic one language understanding, they can join the study group and be part of that training, etc., and then get into the certification. That is one. And the cross training, as I said, we are enabling a lot of cross training on areas like Python and Go. That is also ongoing. And as you also spoke about the AR VR implementations which we have done. So we have teams in these working on these areas, and who can really guide the team. And we are running a lot of AI/ML programs at present, and who can help them to learn the algorithms, and whoever has a basic Python programming skill, they can look at the other areas, and also 3D areas, right? So there are tools like Unity and WebGL, etc. So that also we have certain training programs created, and we have developed solutions also, so that the people can start working on the solution, ready their hands, and they get onto the program. So, and along with the certification. So there are we have a multi-pronged approach to train the team and be ready for the client projects.
So Lekha, one more interesting area, particularly at Quest, we saw that and as we went through the period of uncertainty last year, and then as I said, the tables have shifted this year, and there's a lot of demand on digital. We also have a very large presence of people who have mechanical engineering as their background, right? And they have a very core experience built on the domain side of the business, and they have the skills. How can a mechanical engineering engineer who has those skills can adapt to the digital world? What would be your advice to people who have mechanical engineering background? How can they participate in this digital wave?
Yeah. So my what I have seen also, some of the mechanical engineers who are coming and are doing some cross training in the digital area. So there are a lot of work coming up in the IoT space, if you look at it. So people who understands the mechanical domain, right? And for them, the easy ones is to get participate in programs in the IoT, or the AR programs in the AR/VR. So if you look at IoT, AR/VR, again, one of the programming language they can pick up, and then the other the areas which we do on edge computing, and those areas will become easier, because that is these areas they can start, and then they can migrate on to other areas also. I've seen make people from mechanical side become a successful person in the AI/ML and data engineering also. So definitely cross training can happen, because if you look at the initial years when we started, Piyush, most of us were telecom engineers, right? So, and we were working on embedded and on all embedded programming, and we have we also transformed into the application side, right? So this is also possible, definitely, with the focused effort we can do it. Can
Yeah, and
definitely.
actually, my advice to the mechanical engineers would be some of the best programmers I have seen in my life, in my experience, has been mechanical engineers. And I have quite a few of my colleagues who come with mechanical engineering background, and they have been, working in the software space better than perhaps the computer science engineers. So I think please do not lose heart. There is a lot of work that you guys can learn. In my view, I think there are skills like Python. Python is a very simple language. I think you can pick up programming very easily with Python, and then advance yourself onto other more complex programming languages. Something
Right.
that Lekha, that you touched upon, which I think is going to be important as we go forward, are the low code, no code kind of platforms that are coming up. So
Right.
businesses are looking at developing applications by using graphical tools, and the code is generated by the tool itself. So all you need to do is really do a good design. And
Right.
mechanical engineers are very good at design. So if they can design a workflow, if they can design an application using these tools, then the tool will generate the code. So they really don't need to know programming language. The tool will
Right.
basically take care of that in the background. And those tools are becoming quite slowly and steadily, they're quite becoming popular in the business area. So I think there is a lot of things that people who come from the traditional industrial side can do to participate in this digital wave.
That's
The
right.
other
Yeah.
interesting thing, Lekha, I wanted to ask you was, as you see the situation today, and cloud, AI, ML, data engineering are obviously right here, right now. There is a lot of focus on them. There is a lot of work requirement on them. Talent is required with the skills that are required to work in these areas. But as you look at the horizon in the next 3 to 5 years, which is where the industry is going to go, and digital wave has just started. I think it will take nearly 5 to 7 years before it stabilizes. Pretty much like mobility. Mobility
Right.
took 7 to 10 years before it became core. Today, nobody talks about mobility separately. It's part of the business. Same thing will happen with cloud and data engineering, right? So as you look ahead, 3 to 5 years from now, what are the key tech areas that you feel are going to be impacting us in the industry, and which is what engineers should be focusing on right now to get prepared for
Yeah.
that kind of work?
Sure, sure. Thanks. So that's a very important question. I know people might be, most of the developers will be looking forward to that, right? So as you see, more and more automation is happening, and the self-service technologies will emerge across all the segments, be it healthcare or consumer or hiring or supply chain. All the segments self-services is going to go up. So currently, the automation is happening for the mundane kind of activities, but gone in future, the automation will happen where there is a lot of intelligent thought process is required. In terms of self-driving cars or and technology adoption. You talked about with 5G, and then we're waiting for by 5G, and for so this will trigger connected car services, and then of course DevSecOps. Security is another area where a lot of demands are there currently, and it will go up considerably because security as a core culture will bring in a lot of the security at every step of the software development life cycle. And AR cloud is something which will come up, and which will actually enable the unification of the physical and the digital worlds. That is another important point. And the AR VR implementation, a lot of implementations will happen. It started, but it is going to go up very heavily. That's where all this you also talked about some of the ML program, ML tools which even mechanical people can start learning, like TensorFlow, Keras, and all that, and some of the frameworks. And Python, you spoke about. Python is a basic programming language for the AR VR. And blockchain adoption. Many of the organizations have announced their commitment to join blockchain consortia. That's the biggest thing going to happen. And the distributed ledger in healthcare, payer and provider contracts or payment services. So that is something it is going to disrupt the whole industry. So the technologies which are popular in the blockchain are like Hyperledger and Ethereum and Quorum. These are some of the technologies. And distributed computing and fog computing is another area which is coming up. And quantum computing, that is another thing which will pick up. So these are some of the technologies which will we expect to get a demand probably in the next 3 to 5 years. It will flourish, and a lot of demands will come up in these areas.
So I think it's an interesting time ahead. I think digital is just starting. In my view, I think the wave, particularly the impact of digital wave on the industrial world, is just about getting into mainstream. I mean, we have seen the impact of digital on the consumer side of the industry. All of
Right.
us experience that every day with the whether it is the media that we use for entertainment, or whether we use our banking applications, or whether we use our other consumer focused applications. We have seen the impact that like touched upon the impact digital has created in our lives. Now we will start seeing the same on the industrial side of the business as well. And in my view, I think it's a great time for the engineers. I think there is a lot to learn. Learning never stops in the industry, and I think there's a lot for you guys to pick up the skills, the engineers. More importantly, I think they need to really focus on the fundamentals. Make sure that you are good at the fundamentals, whether it's the programming language they use or the design concept that you use. I think fundamentals being strong, it's very easy for you to skill onto newer skill. Second thing that I feel strongly, Lekha, is that there is a multi-skill requirement now. Unlike
Right.
times when we used to be working, when we were developers earlier, knowing one language or one kind of system was enough. Some of us started with mainframes and mid-range computers. Some of them started with client-server kind of architecture, but it was enough for us to work. But not today. Today there are multiple technologies which are interworking. There is the cloud, there is the edge computing, like you touched upon. There are the user interface, user experience kind of applications that are there. So there are multiple different technologies that interwork. So multi-skilling is going to be important for engineers, in my view. I
Right.
think you need to know multiple skills, which makes them comfortable to work in any environment, and they can adapt very quickly to the changes that are coming in the industry.
Right.
And the
That's right.
second thing that I noticed, as we work with teams, we notice is flexibility. I think engineers will have to be flexible because things are going to change rapidly. So sticking on to one technology or one platform will not help them. I think it's better that they are flexible in adapting to newer technologies, newer tools, and leveraging them in their experience, and also helping customers achieve their business objectives by doing that. So I think in conclusion, and unfortunately, it's a very interesting conversation, Lekha, but time is a limiting factor here. Otherwise, we could have carried on the
Yeah.
conversation for much more time. But in conclusion, my view is that digital wave is just starting. It's there for real. A lot of demand is coming for the skills that are needed, but the skills will take time and effort and patience.
Yes.
Engineers will have to do the hard work, learn those skills, spend time in building an experience. Just learning, training, and certifications will not help alone. I think they really need to pick up hands-on experience. So once they learn a particular technology or a particular tool, I think it will be good for them to apply that in the projects that they're doing, in the work that they're doing, because that application is what is going to build the experience, and that is what will really solve the business problem for the customer. And customer is actually looking for that. They're not looking for just knowing a particular tool or a technology. So I think engineers should spend time, learn the skill, build the experience, and then I'm sure they'll be able to build their careers on it. They will be able to successfully demonstrate that to the business, and will be very successful going forward. So
Well
I think
said.
it will be a very, very interesting phase for all of us, and I hope the pandemic slowly recedes. Things are looking better now, but yeah, the virus is still around. I think we still need to maintain our safety and precautions. People should still focus on making sure that they follow the guidelines, they get vaccinated. But hopefully, if things remain as they are right now, and they normalize as we go along, hopefully the start of next calendar year will open up a bright future for all of us in the digital space. So looking forward to a lot of exciting projects and programs ahead. It's going to be a great time. Thank you so much, Lekha, for
Thank
having me today on the show, and sharing. We got an opportunity to share our thoughts on the digital space, the trends and technologies that are there, and most importantly, to connect with engineers and kind of share our perspective and our guidance to the engineers of what they can do to participate in this wave and build successful careers out of this. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Piyush. Thank you, Piyush. It was a very interesting conversation. I really enjoyed this discussion.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. And apologies, folks. My network was a little patchy. So I think in the beginning we had the problems. Murphy's Law always comes in whenever you're doing an important event. So I apologize for the network issues that I had in the beginning. But hopefully you guys were able to get some useful insights from us, from me and Lekha on this session today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.